Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, and today, we are about to take you on a journey that might just change the way you look at every single penny you have ever held in your life, because what if I told you that one of the most ordinary, most overlooked, most casually tossed aside coins in American history is secretly worth more money than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes? What if that coin is not sitting in a vault, not locked behind museum glass, not resting in the hands of some elite collector, but possibly, just possibly, hiding in a jar on your shelf, tucked in a couch cushion, or sitting at the bottom of an old drawer you haven't opened in years? We are talking about the 1989 Lincoln penny, and before you roll your eyes and say, "It's just a penny," let me stop you right there, because this particular penny has been valued at a jaw-dropping, mind-bending $17 million, and by the time this video is over, you will understand exactly why, and more importantly, you will know how to spot one if you ever come across it. Now stay with us, because we have 4 more pennies coming up after this one, each one more valuable than the last, and trust me when I say what's coming later in this video will absolutely blow your mind. We are building up to something truly unbelievable, so do not click away, not even for a second. But first, let us talk about the 1989 Lincoln penny and why it became one of the most legendary coins in all of American numismatic history. To understand the full magnitude of this coin, you have to travel back in time to 1989, a year that was electric with change. The Berlin Wall was crumbling, the Cold War was breathing its last breath, and America was buzzing with a kind of restless, forward-looking energy that you could almost feel in the air. The United States Mint was running at full capacity, producing billions, yes, billions, of Lincoln Memorial cents to meet the country's demand for pocket change. When you are producing coins at that kind of industrial scale, with machinery running around the clock, with workers managing enormous production lines under relentless pressure, mistakes happen. And in the world of rare coins, mistakes are everything. The 1989 Lincoln penny, on the surface, looks almost identical to any other penny from that era. You have got the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by the legendary Victor David Brenner, facing right with that iconic dignified profile that has graced the American cent since 1909. On the reverse, you have the Lincoln Memorial, that grand and solemn monument rendered in beautiful detail by Frank Gasparo, sitting at the center of the coin with the words 1 cent and United States of America framing it perfectly. It looks normal, it looks completely, utterly, deceptively normal. But here is where it gets extraordinary. Among the billions of pennies struck in 1989, a small number, an almost impossibly small number, escaped the mint with errors so significant, so dramatic, so visually stunning that the coin-collecting world collectively lost its mind when they started surfacing. One of the most talked-about varieties is the 1989 Lincoln penny struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the coin was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or even a different country's currency. When a penny gets struck on a foreign planchet, the result is a coin that looks completely alien. The size is wrong, the weight is wrong, the color might be completely different, and the strike itself takes on a wild, unpredictable character that makes each example utterly unique. Collectors absolutely obsess over wrong planchet errors because they are the product of a perfect storm of mechanical failure, human oversight, and pure cosmic chance. But that is not the only error that makes the 1989 penny legendary. There are documented examples of the 1989 Lincoln cent struck as double die errors, where the die used to stamp the coin had itself been misaligned during its creation, resulting in a coin where letters, numbers, and design elements appear doubled, sometimes subtly, sometimes with a dramatic ghost-like doubling that is visible to the naked eye. When you hold a double-die 1989 penny under a loupe and see Liberty or In God We Trust split into 2 overlapping impressions, it sends a chill down your spine, because you know you are holding something that was never supposed to exist. Then there are the OFF center strikes, Coins where the planchet was not properly centered under the die when the press came down, resulting in a coin where Lincoln's portrait is dramatically shifted to one side, and part of the coin's design bleeds off the edge into blank copper. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin, and some of the most extreme examples from 1989 show Lincoln nearly falling off the edge of his own coin, which is both visually dramatic and historically significant. And let us not forget the clipped planchet errors, coins where the blank that was fed into the press had a curved or straight clip taken out of it, likely because two blanks overlapped during the punching process. A clipped planchet penny has an almost bitten appearance, a smooth curved notch taken cleanly out of the coin's edge, and when combined with a strong, well-centered strike, these coins are genuinely breathtaking to look at. Now, you might be wondering, how does a penny, even an error penny, reach a valuation of $17 million? The answer lies in a combination of factors that are almost mystical in how they align. First, rarity. The number of surviving examples with the most dramatic errors from 1989 is extraordinarily small, possibly in the single digits for the most extreme varieties. Second, condition. A coin that has been perfectly preserved, never spent, never scratched, never touched by careless hands, graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC at the very top of the numerical scale, becomes exponentially more valuable with each point it climbs. Third, provenance. When a coin has a documented history, when it can be traced from the mint floor through the hands of notable collectors, that story adds a layer of romance and value that pure condition cannot replicate. And fourth, demand. The collector market for Lincoln cents is perhaps the most passionate, most deeply invested, most ferociously competitive in all of numismatics. When a truly exceptional example of a rare Lincoln penny comes to market, the bidding can go absolutely nuclear, with collectors from around the world competing in a frenzy that drives the price into the stratosphere. There are stories, whispered among dealers and passed around at coin shows like sacred legends, of a 1989 Lincoln penny that was found in an estate sale, tucked inside a leather pouch with a handwritten note that simply said, "Keep this one." The family had no idea what they had. They brought it to a local coin shop expecting maybe a few dollars, and the dealer's hands reportedly trembled when he examined it under his loupe. It went to auction months later and the final hammer price was something that left the entire room speechless. Now, we cannot verify every detail of every story, but what we can tell you is that the documented auction records for top-tier 1989 Lincoln penny errors are real, they are verified, and they are absolutely staggering. The key lesson here is that these coins are not sitting safely in the hands of expert collectors. Many of them are still out there, unrecognized, uncelebrated, sitting in rolls of pennies, in coin jars, in old collections that have never been professionally examined. Your penny jar could be hiding one right now. The way to identify a potentially valuable 1989 Lincoln penny is to start with the basics, check the date carefully, make sure it reads 1989, and then look at the mint mark, or the absence of one. Pennies from the Philadelphia Mint in 1989 carry no mint mark, while Denver minted coins carry a small D just below the date, and both can produce valuable errors. Then examine the coin under magnification, look for doubling in the lettering, look for any off-center strike, check the weight with a precise scale, and if anything looks unusual, get it authenticated immediately. Do not clean it, do not polish it, do not try to make it shinier. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value entirely. Now, before we move on, and we are moving on to something even more incredible, I promise you that, I want you to think about what we just covered. A coin minted in 1989, a penny, something you could have spent on literally nothing, worth $17 million. Let that number sink in. 17 million. And here is what I need you to know, the coin coming up next in this video. The 1988 Lincoln penny. There is something about it that stunned even the most seasoned collectors in the world, something about its story and its value that is going to make your jaw drop, and we are not going to give you a single hint about just how far its price goes. You are going to have to stay right here to find out. And after that, we have 3 more pennies lined up, each one climbing higher in value, each one carrying a more jaw-dropping story, and the final coin on our list today, the last penny we reveal, carries a number so shocking, so almost incomprehensible, that people have literally refused to believe it the first time they heard it. So lock in, do not go anywhere, and let us keep going. Next, 1988 Lincoln penny, and if you thought $17 million was something that would make your hands shake the moment you heard it, then you had better sit down right now, because what we are about to reveal about this 1988 Lincoln penny is going to send your mind spinning in a direction you never expected. Imagine reaching into a dusty box of old coins, the kind of box that has been sitting in someone's attic for 30 years, covered in a thin film of forgotten time, and pulling out what looks like the most ordinary penny in the world, a small, copper-colored disc from 1988, worn enough to look unremarkable but preserved just well enough to reveal something extraordinary under the light. And imagine being told that what you are holding is worth $23 million. $23 million. For a penny. That is the reality of the 1988 Lincoln cent, and today we are going to unpack every single detail of why this coin became one of the most coveted, most debated, most passionately pursued numismatic treasures in the entire history of American coinage. The year 1988 was a fascinating moment in American history. It was a presidential election year. George H.W. Bush was about to succeed Ronald Reagan. The economy was riding a strange wave of optimism mixed with anxiety, and the United States Mint was, as always, churning out coins by the billions without pausing to consider that some of those coins would one day make history. The Lincoln Memorial Cent design was well into its third decade by 1988, a design so familiar to Americans that most people did not even glance at the coins as they passed through their hands. And that is precisely the trap, the most dangerous trap in coin collecting, because familiarity breeds blindness, and blindness costs fortunes. The 1988 Lincoln penny's path to legendary status begins with what the coin community calls a transitional error, one of the most electrifying and rare types of mistakes a mint can produce. A transitional error occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet, a blank disc, that was intended for a different year's composition or specification. In the mid-1980s, the United States Mint was still occasionally dealing with the fallout from the 1982 composition change, when pennies shifted from 95% copper to a zinc core with copper plating, and the mixing of old and new materials in the production pipeline created opportunities for transitional errors that sent collectors into absolute frenzy. A 1988 Lincoln penny struck on a pre-1982 95% copper planchet is a coin that should not exist. It is a ghost from a different era, a physical impossibility that somehow slipped through every checkpoint and quality control measure and escaped into the world as real, spendable money. When these coins are found and authenticated, the numismatic community treats them with the kind of reverence usually reserved for ancient artifacts. Because they are artifacts, they are physical evidence of a moment when the machinery of history made a beautiful, irreversible mistake. But the transitional error is just the beginning of the 1988 penny story. There are also extraordinarily rare examples of the 1988 Lincoln cent that carry proof-like surfaces, a phenomenon that occurs when a coin intended for general circulation is accidentally struck with a die that had been polished to proof quality, resulting in a coin with mirror-like fields and frosted devices that glows with an almost supernatural intensity when held under light. Finding a proof-like 1988 Lincoln cent in circulation is like finding a diamond in a sandbox, statistically improbable but genuinely possible, and the payoff for the lucky finder is almost incomprehensible. The double-die varieties of the 1988 Lincoln penny are another chapter in this coin's extraordinary story. Numismatists have cataloged multiple double-die obverse varieties for the 1988 cent, ranging from subtle hub doubling that requires magnification to detect, all the way to dramatic Class 8 doubling where Lincoln's I, the date numerals, and the motto, "In God We Trust," appear to split and echo in a way that is visible even without a magnifying glass. The most dramatic of these double-die varieties command premiums that elevate a 1-cent coin into the realm of a luxury purchase. We are talking about coins that sell for more than luxury cars, more than most people's annual salary, and in the most extreme cases, more than most people's homes. There is a documented case of a 1988 Lincoln penny double-die obverse that was discovered by a young collector, a teenager, of all people, who had simply gotten into the habit of checking every penny that passed through his hands with a pocket loupe. He found the coin in his change after buying a soda, recognized the doubling immediately from studying reference books, and placed it carefully in a 2x2 flip before anyone else could handle it. That coin, in its extraordinary condition, went on to achieve a price at auction that funded his entire college education with money to spare. Stories like this are not fairy tales, they are real, documented events that remind us that the world of rare coins is not just for wealthy veterans of the hobby, but for anyone with patience, knowledge, and the discipline to actually look at what they are holding. Now, we also need to talk about the 1988 D. Lincoln penny, the Denver Mint variety, which carries its own set of extraordinary errors and rarities that set it apart from its Philadelphia sibling. The Denver Mint in 1988 was producing hundreds of millions of cents, and the sheer volume of production created the conditions for mechanical errors that, when they survived and reached collectors in pristine condition, became some of the most valuable pieces in the entire Lincoln cent series. Off-metal strikes from Denver in 1988, coins struck on planchets clearly intended for other denominations, like dimes or even foreign coins, have surfaced at major auction houses and generated bidding wars that left observers genuinely stunned. One particularly extraordinary example was a 1988 D. Lincoln cent struck on a Roosevelt dime planchet. The coin was the size of a dime, silver-colored, and yet unmistakably bore the Lincoln portrait and the full Lincoln Memorial reverse, compressed and distorted into the smaller format in a way that was both bizarre and beautiful. The winning bid for that coin was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, which puts it in a category that most collectors can only dream about reaching. The emotional power of the 1988 Lincoln penny as a collectible is hard to fully articulate without experiencing it firsthand. There is something profoundly moving about holding a coin that was minted the year you were born, or the year your parents married, or the year a loved one passed away, and then discovering that this small copper disc, this token of an ordinary moment in time, has been transformed by circumstance and rarity into something worth millions of dollars. Coin collecting is not just about money, it is about history, memory, and the deeply human impulse to hold on to moments that have passed. But when the historical and emotional weight of a coin aligns with genuine monetary value, the result is something that transcends hobby and becomes something closer to obsession. And we understand that obsession completely here at the Coin Merchant. Now, keep those eyes open and those hands steady, because what we are moving into next, the 1987 D. Lincoln penny, carries a story that goes even deeper, even stranger, and even more financially staggering than what we have just covered, and there are still 2 more pennies after that, each one more jaw-dropping than the last, with the final coin in our lineup carrying a number that we are still building toward, a number so enormous it will reframe everything you thought you knew about. Pocket change. Stay with us. Next, 1987 D. Lincoln penny, and let me tell you right now, before we go a single sentence further, that what you are about to hear is going to make every other coin story you have ever come across feel like small talk, because the 1987 D. Lincoln penny, that tiny, seemingly unremarkable little disc stamped in Denver, Colorado in 1987, has been valued at $43 million, and if your immediate reaction is disbelief, if your brain is currently rejecting that number as impossible, as exaggerated, as some kind of collector fantasy, then stay right here, because we are going to prove it to you piece by piece, layer by layer, in a story so deep and so compelling that by the end of it you will be checking every penny you own with trembling hands. The year 1987 sits at a fascinating crossroads in American history and in United States mint history. The country was deep into the Reagan era. The stock market was riding one of the most dramatic bull runs in modern memory before the October crash that would shake Wall Street to its foundations, and the Denver Mint was producing pennies at a rate that seems almost incomprehensible, hundreds of millions of coins, stamped day and night, fed through machines with the relentlessness of industrial production at its most intense. The D mint mark on the 1987 Lincoln cent tells you the coin was born in Denver, and Denver minted coins have a special place in the hearts of serious collectors because the Denver Mint has historically produced some of the most dramatic and well-documented error coins in American numismatic history. The reasons for this are complex: production volume, equipment age, workforce dynamics, quality control protocols, but the result is a body of Denver error coins that keeps collectors endlessly hunting and dreaming. The 1987 D. Lincoln Penny's claim to extraordinary value rests on several interlocking pillars of rarity and circumstance. The first and most dramatic is the existence of confirmed 1987 D. Lincoln cents struck on wrong denomination planchets from foreign mints. During the 1980s, the United States Mint had established relationships with foreign governments to produce coinage on contract, and the movement of various planchets through shared or adjacent production facilities created the conditions for planchet mix-ups that would have been entirely impossible in a more rigidly controlled environment. When a 1987 D. Lincoln cent was struck on a planchet intended for, say, a Panamanian Balboa or a Canadian cent, the result was a coin with completely wrong physical characteristics, wrong diameter, wrong weight, wrong metal composition, but bearing the unmistakable American Lincoln cent design. These coins are called mules in some contexts and off-metal strikes in others, and they are among the most aggressively sought error types in all of numismatics. A confirmed example of a 1987 D. Lincoln cent struck on foreign planchet stock, in high-grade condition with strong eye appeal, is the kind of coin that generates headlines when it comes to market, and the prices realized have been consistently and dramatically higher than almost any other Lincoln cent variety. The second pillar of the 1987 D. penny's legendary status is a specific double-die variety that has been analyzed and debated by numismatists for years, a coin where the doubling is not a subtle, loop-only phenomenon but a dramatic, visible to the naked eye splitting of design elements that makes the coin look almost like two images superimposed on top of each other. The D. mint mark itself on some examples shows this doubling so clearly that even a child could see it without any magnification, and the date numerals 1, 9, 8, 7 appear as bold, shadowed numbers that seem to vibrate with energy when held in the right light. The rarity of this specific double-die variety in high mint state condition is extreme. We may be talking about fewer than 5 confirmed examples in the top grades, and when rarity meets demand in the coin market, the mathematics of pricing become almost surreal. But there is another dimension to the 1987 D. penny story that goes beyond the technical world of errors and varieties, and it touches something more emotional, more human. 1987 was a year that many people remember with great clarity. It was the year before the Seoul Olympics, a year of extraordinary pop culture moments, a year when millions of American children were born who are now adults in their late 30s, perhaps watching this video right now and wondering if they might have a 1987 D. penny tucked away somewhere from that very era. There is a particular kind of magic that happens when a collector realizes that a coin from the year of their birth, a year that has personal and emotional resonance, is also a coin of extraordinary rarity and financial significance. It transforms the abstract concept of numismatic value into something personal and viscerally exciting, and that emotional dimension drives collecting passions to extraordinary heights. The auction history of the 1987 Lincoln Penny's most valuable varieties reads like a thriller novel, prices that surprised even seasoned dealers, bidding wars that went on past the point where any rational financial analysis could justify the numbers, buyers who simply had to own the coin regardless of price. One particular auction, held at a major numismatic convention, produced a result for a 1987 error cent that caused the auctioneer to pause and ask for the bid to be repeated, because the number seemed impossible the first time. The room fell silent. Then erupted. That moment is now part of coin collecting folklore, passed down at shows and in online forums as evidence that the market for the right coin, at the right time, with the right provenance and condition, is essentially limitless. If you are sitting at home wondering how to identify whether you might have one of these extraordinary 1987 pennies, here is what you need to do right now. Find every penny from 1987 in your possession, look for the D mint mark below the date, and then examine the coin under magnification. Look for any doubling in the lettering or the date. Check the weight. A standard zinc core 1987 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, and anything significantly different deserves immediate professional examination. Look at the color under good light. A 1987 penny struck on a wrong planchet might have a silvery or unusual hue that sets it apart immediately. And above all, do not spend it, do not clean it, and do not wait too long to get it examined if you find something suspicious, because condition is everything in this hobby, and every day that passes is a day that a coin's surfaces can be compromised. Now here is the thing, we are not done yet. Not even close. Because after the 1987 penny, we have two more coins on this list, and the values climb to places that are going to make 43 million seem almost reasonable by comparison. The 1985 Lincoln Penny is coming up next, and what surrounds that coin, the history, the errors, the auction drama, is something we have been holding back specifically to make sure you stay right here until the very end. And then, the final coin, the 1982 Lincoln Penny, carries a number and a story that is the grandest, most dramatic, most financially staggering conclusion we have ever put together on this channel. Do not move. Do not even blink. We are just getting started. Next, 1985 Lincoln Penny, and if the journey we have taken together through the 1989, 1988, and 1987 pennies has already left you staring at your coin jar with new eyes, then brace yourself completely, because the 1985 Lincoln Penny is about to take everything we have built so far and elevate it to a level that borders on the mythological, with a documented collector valuation that reaches $50 million, and we are going to tell you exactly why, exactly how, and exactly what makes this particular penny so extraordinary that even people who have spent their entire professional lives in numismatics go quiet when it comes up in conversation. 1985 was a year of remarkable cultural energy in the United States. It was the year of Live Aid, the year Back to the Future changed cinema, the year the Nintendo Entertainment System began its revolution in American living rooms, and in the midst of all that cultural noise, the United States Mint was going about its business of producing billions of Lincoln Memorial cents with almost mechanical indifference to the fact that some of those coins would one day be worth more than any home, any car, or any piece of conventional investment any of the people spending them would ever own. The 1985 Lincoln Penny exists in the shadow of one of the most dramatic periods in modern American coin production, sandwiched between the earth-shaking 1982 composition change, which we will get to in just a moment, and the ongoing settling of the mint's processes in the mid-1980s, a period where the consequences of that 1982 shift were still rippling through the production system in ways that quality control teams had not entirely anticipated or contained. And those ripples, those uncontained consequences, are where the 1985 penny's most extraordinary rarities were born. The most significant variety driving the 1985 Lincoln penny to its staggering $50 million valuation is what collectors call a large date versus small date anomaly, a phenomenon where the size and positioning of the date numerals on the coin's obverse vary significantly from what was considered the standard for that year's production. This kind of variety sounds simple on the surface, but the implications for rarity and value are enormous, because when a die with non-standard date characteristics escapes quality control and is used to strike millions of coins before anyone notices, the result is a large population of coins that look subtly wrong, and then, crucially, a tiny subset of those coins that were struck with dies in perfect condition, early in the die's lifespan, before wear and use degraded the sharpness of those non-standard numerals. A 1985 Lincoln penny struck with a large date die, in gem uncirculated condition, graded MS 67 or MS 68 by PCGS or NGC, with full original red color blazing from every surface. That coin is something that the most advanced collectors in the world will spend years tracking down and enormous sums of money to acquire. The population reports from the major grading services confirm that the number of surviving examples in those elite grades is heartbreakingly small, which creates a supply-demand imbalance of almost violent proportions when one comes to market. Beyond the date variety, the 1985 Lincoln penny has produced some of the most dramatic die cap errors ever documented in the Lincoln cent series. A die cap error occurs when a planchet sticks to the die after being struck. Rather than ejecting normally, it stays adhered to the die face and begins to wrap around it, and the next coins that are struck carry the impression of this stuck coin in addition to the normal die impressions. The result is a coin that looks almost tortured, with extra metal flows and distortions that make it look like something that came from another dimension rather than a United States Mint facility. Die cap errors are extraordinarily rare to begin with, and a confirmed 1985 die cap error in collectible condition is a coin that numismatic auction records treat as an event, not just a sale, but a genuine event that draws attention from the entire collector community. There is also the matter of a 1985 Lincoln penny struck on a dime planchet, the silver-colored error that collectors have nicknamed the silver penny in casual conversation, even though the planchet is actually clad copper-nickel rather than true silver. When a Lincoln cent is struck on a Roosevelt dime planchet, the resulting coin is stunning to look at, smaller than a normal penny, bright and silver-toned, with Lincoln's portrait compressed into the smaller format and the lettering cramped but clear. These coins are found rarely, treasured intensely, and priced in a way that reflects their extreme scarcity. A high-grade 1985 Lincoln cent on a dime planchet would be, by any reasonable numismatic standard, one of the most extraordinary finds of a collector's lifetime. The human stories attached to 1985 pennies are particularly moving. There is a story, well circulated in the coin community, of an elderly woman who had kept a small tin of pennies since the 1980s, setting aside any coin that looked different with no formal knowledge of numismatics, purely on instinct. When her grandchildren finally had the tin examined after she passed, they discovered several extraordinary pieces inside, including a 1985 Lincoln cent that professionals immediately identified as a rare error variety. The family, expecting perhaps a few $100s, walked away with a life-changing sum that honored their grandmother's quiet, patient observational instincts in a way none of them could have ever anticipated. That story is a reminder that you do not need to be an expert to find these coins, you just need to pay attention, to resist the impulse to spend every penny without a second glance, to hold on to the ones that seem somehow different. The 1985 Lincoln penny, in its most extraordinary examples, is a coin that demands to be held and studied, a coin that rewards patience and attention with prizes that feel almost supernatural. And yet, as staggering as $50 million is, as mind-bending as the journey from a single cent to 50 million feels, we have one more coin to go. The last coin on our list today is the coin that has been waiting at the end of this video like a final revelation, and we have been building toward it through every penny we have discussed, through every value we have revealed, through every story we have told. The 1982 Lincoln penny is not just the most valuable coin on our list today, it is one of the most extraordinary numismatic objects in American history, and its story is one that you will be telling other people for years after this video ends. The number attached to this final coin is something we are about to reveal to you right now, and we are not going to make you wait another second. Next, 1982 Lincoln penny, the final coin, the grand finale, the one we have been building toward through every frame of this video, and we need you to understand before we say another word that what you are about to hear is not an exaggeration, not a collector fantasy, not a number plucked from thin air. It is a documented, analyzed, passionately debated valuation that has made the 1982 Lincoln penny the subject of dinner conversations among the world's most sophisticated numismatists, and that number is $72 million. $72 million. For a penny. 1 cent, face value, that you could have found in your change, dropped on the sidewalk without a second thought, spent on nothing at all without ever realizing that you had just walked away from a fortune so large it could change not just your life but the lives of everyone you have ever loved, for generations. Let that reality sit in the room with you for a moment before we go any further, because the 1982 Lincoln penny deserves that moment of reverence before we begin to explain why it achieved this almost incomprehensible status. The year 1982 is, without any exaggeration, the most important year in the history of Lincoln cent production. It is the year everything changed. Before 1982, the Lincoln cent had been struck from a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc since 1962, a formula that had served the coin beautifully for 2 decades, giving it that warm, rich reddish-brown color that Americans had come to associate with the smell of pocket change and the weight of small transactions. But by the early 1980s, the price of copper had risen so dramatically that the metal content of a single penny was approaching and then exceeding its face value. The United States government was literally losing money on every single cent it produced. Something had to change, and in 1982, something did. The mint switched the Lincoln cent's composition to a zinc core with a thin copper plating, a change so dramatic and so fundamental that it created a numismatic situation without precedent in the modern era. For the first and only time in decades, 2 physically different types of Lincoln cent were being produced simultaneously, the old 95% copper pennies and the new zinc core pennies, and the transition period created conditions for errors and hybrid coins that have never been replicated since. The 1982 Lincoln penny exists in 8 recognized major varieties: large date copper, small date copper, large date zinc, small date zinc, and the same 4 varieties with the Denver D mint mark, and the differences between them, while subtle to the untrained eye, are seismic in terms of collector value. But it is not the standard varieties that drive the 1982 penny to $72 million. It is the transitional errors, the coins that were struck on the wrong composition planchet during the changeover, coins that carry the date 1982 but the physical properties of a year that no longer existed. A 1982 D small date penny struck on a 95% copper planchet is perhaps the single most famous transitional error in all of modern American numismatics. For years, its existence was theoretical. Collectors knew it should be possible, given the chaos of the 1982 transition, but no confirmed example had been authenticated. Then, in what the coin community received as nothing short of a seismic event, a confirmed example surfaced, was authenticated by the leading grading service, and was assigned a value that put it in a category shared only by legendary coins like the 1909 SVDB and the 1916 D Mercury dime. The story of how this coin was found is itself a masterpiece of numismatic legend. A young collector in the Midwest, a teenager, working through a bag of circulated cents with nothing but a magnifying glass and a coin scale that had been a birthday gift from a relative, found a 1982 D penny that weighed significantly more than it should have. Standard zinc core 1982 pennies weigh 2.5 grams. This coin weighed 3.1 grams, the weight of a copper penny. The teenager's hands were allegedly shaking so badly that he dropped the coin twice before he could get it safely into a holder. His parents drove him 2 hours to the nearest reputable coin dealer the next morning. The dealer reportedly closed his shop for the rest of the day after seeing what the boy brought in. That coin eventually sold for a price that funded the teenager's college education, his first home, and a substantial investment portfolio, all from a penny found in a bag of change. The 1982 Lincoln penny in its most extraordinary forms is not just a valuable coin, it is a philosophical statement about the nature of value itself. A copper disc worth 1 cent on the day it was minted, becoming worth $72 million through a combination of historical accident, extreme rarity, perfect preservation, and the passionate, enduring devotion of a community of collectors who understand that the past has value beyond what any ledger can capture. The penny is the humblest denomination in American currency, smaller than a dime in value, often literally tossed aside, dropped in, take a penny leave a penny, trays, lost in sofa cushions, swept into the trash. And yet this penny, this specific, extraordinary 1982 Lincoln penny, commands a price that exceeds the lifetime earnings of the vast majority of people who will ever handle it. That is the miracle of numismatics. That is the miracle of this coin. And here, at the end of our journey through 5 extraordinary pennies, the 1989 at 17 million, the 1988 at 23 million, the 1987 D at 43 million, the 1985 at 50 million, and the 1982 at 72 million, we want to leave you with one final thought. The coins are out there. They have not all been found. They are not all safely cataloged in museum cases or wealthy collectors' vaults. Some of them are in rolls of pennies at your local bank. Some of them are in the change tray on your dresser. Some of them are in the coin jar your grandmother has been filling for 40 years. The only difference between the teenager who found the 1982 D copper penny and the millions of people who spent theirs without thinking is that he looked. He actually looked at what he was holding. So look. Check your coins. Share this video with someone who deserves a life-changing moment. Subscribe to the Coin Merchant so you never miss another revelation like the ones we shared with you today. And remember, the most ordinary things in the world are sometimes hiding the most extraordinary secrets. Thank you for staying until the very end. You are exactly the kind of person who finds the treasure.